video, I am really going to share some information about selective mutism or autism or both, because there seems to be a lot of questions about it, a lot of misunderstanding. Some people think is either one or the other. So I'm really here to clarify. So welcome to my channel Word Steps, and I'm so happy to be here. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, pop your question below. I'm always so happy to respond. And if you have any questions for later on, or if you have any requests for videos, I'm always happy to make a video for you. And remember to click subscribe in my YouTube videos, because I aim to post as much as I can. There is a little bit of a disclaimer that I am a specialist in selective mutism, but I'm not an expert in autism. But I tend to see patients that they are multilingual. One of the things is that there is a lot to learn and a lot to uncover about SM or selective mutism and autism. And really there are a lot of misconceptions. There is still not a lot of information, either both, either to really promote neurodiversity and also to understand anxiety, and a lot of us don't really understand either of them. So I'm really aiming to give you some understanding, and if you want more videos, you can just let me know. So let's start, first of all, what is autism? So autism is also known as autism spectrum disorder or ASD, and it's a term that we use that it refers to a wide range of condition that they're manifested in difficulties and challenges in social interactions, speech, nonverbal communication, sharing, and much more. There are different types of autism, and more importantly, everyone experiences it differently, although the diagnostic criteria will follow specific steps. And it goes without saying that no two people with autism are exactly the same, and no two people with selective mutism are exactly the same. Now, whilst we can see early signs of autism as early as 18 months, most generally gets formally diagnosed around the age of 2 and 3, when we see symptoms that are quite apparent. And it really affects both the verbal and the non-verbal communication skills. And also speech is affected. And that's why is closely compared with selective mutism. So I wanted to show you the ice cream sundae type of approach or explanation, and that was created by All Kids. So thank you so much. And why did they use this? Because it's a way of explaining to both parents and children that their autism is like an ice cream sundae. And it means that you can create an ice cream sundae using different ingredients, and it can be as big as you like or as little as you like, but also the behavior of the ingredients will be different, and the ice cream will melt according to the environment. And some ingredients will be present all the time, like the sprinkles or the flakes or the chocolate or the fruit. but some will change over time. And that depends with intervention. And the intervention in the case is the spoon. But, children need to understand that, there is, for example, a sorbet will melt in a different way than chocolate. And if you look at it, when you look at the form of different flavors, it happens exactly the same with autism. And there isn't really one explanation fits all. But it's really important that you and your children understand that just like their personality, we're all different. And we want to use a description that is less formal and it kind of can make sense. Now, what happens with selective mutism? So, selective mutism is different and is being identified as an anxiety disorder that starts in childhood, and it manifests with the inability to your child to speak during social setting where your child doesn't feel comfortable. And that's already quite a difference. Environment. So children with autism would behave similarly, and also their communication, if they lack words, they would lack words at home and outside. Now, it is really important to understand that children with selective mutism can communicate well whenever they feel that they are in a zone of comfort. But obviously, we know that autism and selective mutism are two different conditions. So the first one, so autism, is a developmental disability. And selective mutism is a social anxiety disorder. But a lot of people wonder, but is it selective mutism a form of autism? Or can you have just selective mutism, or just autism, or both? So, for example, children with SM can actually have difficulties in making eye contact, appear really blank, or they might not have any expressions in their faces. And children with autism would have that all the time. So we can also look at the way that they speak. So they will not, children with selective mutism, they will speak or they will communicate really well and expressively, and you really see the two huge differences. So when we look at selective mutism, we need to think about the iceberg. So selective mutism, it's at the top. And so this is what you see. And you've got factors, which is the environment and the anxiety underneath. So there is way much more than what we see. Selective mutism affects 1 in 140 children. And I find certainly that the literature says that it's more common in girls, especially who are learning a second language, or they've migrated from a different country from birth. And I have to say my caseload is really high, and I do have a lot of family that they are bilingual. But can I just say it's not the bilingualism that causes the selective mutism. It's really, really important that you understand that. Now, because selective mutism is a behavior that arises from underlying causes, which is the anxiety in the environment, it is changeable and can be treated. It's very rare that children don't get better. So it means that it is not pervasive like autism, which is lifetime. So selective mutism can affect more than just speech. And this is what I say. Selective mutism is more than the fear of talking. They have real difficulties in communication. That can include imitation, gesture, even writing down, even eating. And it's named after one of the behavioral effects of the underlying difficulties, and that's why we call it a phobia. Now, the other side, autism, can affect the way the person or the child communicates, but it's how they see the world. And it definitely occurs to a certain extent in most settings. Whereas, as I said earlier, SM does not occur in all settings and it will not be lifelong. And if you look at emerging behavior, when we looked at the flakes in the ice cream sundae, they might look similar in autism and SM. So as I said earlier, they might not look, or they might not join in games, or they might have limited interest, sensory differences, meltdown. What do you see in your child? And I have some homework for you, is write down and share in this group or in the closed group, what are the differences that you see? And I will be posting later on something about the differences and what can you see? Now, it is true that both autistic people and people with SM, they both have difficulties with social interaction and social communication. But children with autism, they do not have flexible thinking. And they definitely have more sensory perception. And whereas the children with SM, they do have flexible thinking and they might have sensory perception difficulties, but it's not that rigid. And so people observe the behaviors, not the drivers of the behavior. So, and also we have way more evidence and understanding and research on autism. And by definition, whenever the professional in the selective mutism space, the child's communication is abnormal, they have to ask the parents, I mean, what do we mean by abnormal? So actually you can have autism really rigid and selective mutism, and they could be separate, but you could actually have them both, because social anxiety is actually the result of being autistic. And something that in my experience as a clinician, what I notice is that there is an emerging of this selective mutism when they go to high school, because they need to communicate with a larger audience. So, because there is so much about, the social interaction having to be, they have to be social. They've got to make friends. Now, obviously, this is just, a few things, but there is also a way of describing intervention. So this is what I'm going to be doing next week. We're going to continue our journey with selective mutism and autism, but we will look at intervention. So what thoughts have I provoked today? What other questions you have? Keep posting them here, and I would really love for you to start using kind of a lens and observe. And this is what I do. If you want to know more, send me a message just below and I will put some more information, because I actually recorded recently a 6-part series, and you'll be able to understand my approach, which is the brave muscle, and that will be both for you and your child. If you also want a guide, please write down guide and you can download it, and you will also be able to find all the information in the description below. And I like to thank everyone that was here. I look forward to seeing you again next week for the next part. And remember that in the next video, we're going to be talking about more about selective mutism or autism and treatment. And I wish you a really good day, and every day is a good day. But you remember, you make your own sunshine. Take care, guys. See you next week.